Amazing. So welcome everyone. My name is Krista. I'm a customer success manager here at Akindi, and today I'll be walking you through how to use Akindi. Akindi is a paper multiple choice assessment tool. We make it easy for instructors to create and grade multiple choice assessments. We actually offer both paper and online assessments, but paper assessments where students are writing like physical bubble sheets in person is the bread and butter of what we offer and is today going to be the focus of today's webinar. I'm going to walk you through how to use Akindi. At any point, if you have any questions, you're welcome to drop questions in the webinar chat. Let me just make sure that that's open for everyone. Perfect. And there's also a Q&A feature in Zoom as well, where you can drop questions there. I'll stop at a few key points along the way and answer questions and make sure that everyone is on board. And we'll get through it all together. Amazing. So I'll share my screen here. I'm actually going to start from within Canvas. So Akindi is integrated into 4 different learning management systems. We're integrated into Canvas, D2L, Blackboard, and Moodle. And all of the integrations function pretty much the same. The only thing that looks different is how you access Akindi when you're in your learning management system. So from Canvas, what you will do is you will log into Canvas, you'll select your desired course, and Akindi may already be listed as one of the option items on the left-hand side. And if it's not, then it will be hidden under Settings. You can go to the Navigation tab, and then Akindi would be listed as a disabled item that you could just drag and drop so that it's visible and be able to access Akindi that way. So that's Canvas, which we will come back to. For D2L, a very similar process. You will log into your D2L course, select the desired course, and then you'll add a content module and add Akindi to that content module as an external learning tool. So you'll add a module. I already have an Akindi module here, for example. Then you'll select existing learning activities and existing learning tools, and Akindi will be listed as an external learning tool that you will then add to a content module. And then finally, we'll also go through Blackboard. Blackboard Original, not Ultra, is very similar. You add Akindi as a content module. Blackboard Ultra, you'll select your course, and then Akindi will be listed under Books and Tools. And Akindi will be listed there. I have a few different options, or you may see that I have a few different options in my demo account. It's just because I have like multiple versions of Akindi, and you'll only have one. So you won't have to worry about what differences are. There'll only be one Akindi option for you. From whatever learning management system you're coming from, as soon as you click Launch Akindi from your course, you will then go through the exact same process as every other learning management system. You'll be presented with a landing page with an option to either launch assessments or launch Akindi. The button might look a little bit different depending on your school. You'll click Launch Assessments, and then you'll be brought into Akindi. So a few things happen when you launch Akindi from your learning management system. One is that we will automatically create your account for you. So if you don't already have an existing Akindi account, we'll create that for you. And if you have an existing account, we will launch you to that existing account. We'll also automatically create your course in Akindi and sync your class roster. So I launched my Intro to Accounting course, so I now have that course on my left-hand menu in Akindi, and the student IDs, names, emails, and sections will automatically be pulled over from your learning management system. Every time you launch Akindi from your learning management system, we will go through the same process of syncing the class roster so that as students are added to the course in the first few weeks of the semester, or as they drop the course throughout the semester, this roster will stay up to date. I'm just going to pause here to see if there are any questions around getting into Akindi from your learning management system. And actually, as I do that, I have links. And I'll send a follow-up email after this webinar that will include the recording to this, as well as some helpful links. And in that email, I will also include links for each specific learning management system of how to access Akindi, so you can always follow those after. And I just dropped those links there as well in the chat. I'll make sure you can see that. Oh, I set that to hosts and panelists. Let me make sure this is to everyone. Whoops. There we go. Now you should see those links in the chat. Fantastic. So now that we're in Akindi, we will go through the process of setting up an Akindi assessment and having that assessment graded by Akindi. And you will go through the same process every single time you want to run a multiple choice assessment in Akindi. You will click this Create Assessment button in the upper right corner. Akindi will then walk you through a simple two-step process to create your assessment and enter your answer key. So the first step in setting up your assessment is customizing the bubble sheet. So you'll see that I have a bubble sheet on the right-hand side, and then I have the ability to customize that bubble sheet on the left. I already have my course selected, but if I wanted to select a different course, I could do that there. I can then add my assessment names, whatever will help me identify this, for example, midterm 1 or midterm 2 or midterm fall 2024, whatever will help you identify that. As I mentioned, we offer both paper and online assessments, but today we'll be focusing on the paper assessment piece where students will be writing the test in person on like an actual physical bubble sheet. Based on the number of questions that you have on your assessment, you'll select the layout, the bubble sheet layout that best fits your needs. So our standard layouts, we have a 50 question, 100 question. We also have larger templates like 150 question or 200 question layouts. We also have some layouts that have A through J, so they have 10 distractors as opposed to our typical 5 distractors. And depending on your school, you might have a different selection of bubble sheets, but those are just our standard ones. So you'll select the layout that best fits your needs. A few things to note about that. One is that we will automatically ignore any unused test questions. So if you only had 20 questions on your assessment, you could still use this 50 question layout and Akindi would automatically ignore the last 30 questions. If you're running a multi-version assessment, which most of you do, then you will turn on this toggle and select your desired number of versions. At the moment, we support up to 6 different versions. If you do not run a multi-version assessment, you'll just leave this off and the students will just get a basic test sheet. Selecting pre-fill student information will take the student names and student IDs that we pulled from your learning management system and pre-populate those onto the test sheet. So with this, each student will have a customized test sheet with their name and student ID already filled in. Of course, if you have large classes, it could be difficult to hand out a specific test sheet to each student. So in that case, you can leave this turned off and the students would just write in their own names and bubble in their own IDs. I'm so sorry if you hear a squeaky toy in the background. The dog is very excited about squeaky toys these days. Great. And then the final customization is to select what's displayed in the header of the test sheet using these checkboxes. So if I just want course name and assessment name, I could leave those checked. And Akindi will update this preview in real time so I can see what that test sheet will look like. Again, I'm just going to pause here to see if there are any questions around customizing the bubble sheet, this first step in setting up your assessment in Akindi. Do you have to pre-fill test sheets? No, so you don't have to pre-fill the test sheets with the student information. So if you leave this unchecked, Akindi will just give you a blank test sheet and you can just print however many copies you need for your class. And then the students will just write in their own names and bubble in their own student IDs. And then Akindi will read their bubbled IDs and connect them automatically to the students in your class roster. So it's really just up to you on whatever is easiest. How the students, oh, okay. Oh, so there's a question around how Akindi will know which version each student wrote. I'm going to come back to that question. We'll handle that a little bit later when we're actually looking at a test sheet. Okay, so once we've customized the bubble sheet, I'll click Save and Continue, and then Akindi will prompt me to enter my answer key. So there's a few different ways to enter your answer key into Akindi, but the most commonly used method, especially when you're first starting out in Akindi, is to digitally select the correct response for each question using these digital bubbles. So the old Scantron test sheet, you had to like physically fill in a bubble sheet to scan with the test sheets. You'll do this step digitally in Akindi. Perfect. So I've entered my answer key for version A. And then because I'm running a multi-version assessment, I have a drop-down menu here that will allow me to switch between the different versions. So I'll enter the answer key for version A, use the drop-down menu to switch to version B, and then enter the answer key for version D. If you have questions that you want to like customize in terms of how Akindi grades those, you can do that using our advanced marking option. So when I turn on this toggle, Akindi will provide me with many more options to customize how the test question will be graded in Akindi. So when this is turned on, you could quickly make a question worth multiple marks or worth partial marks or even 0 marks. You can make a question worth 0 marks if you want to run a survey question on an assessment, or if you wanted to remove a question from the test afterwards, you could set it to be worth 0 marks. By default, Akindi uses an exact mark grading scheme, which means that the students have to select the exact bubbles bubbled onto the answer key in order to receive credit. So for example, if I have C and D selected and exact mark is the default, then the students will have to select both C and D in order to receive a credit for this question. If they just selected C, they would get 0 points for this question. We can customize that though, using this little drop-down menu. So if I wanted, I could use partial mark grading scheme, which will award half a mark for A, half a mark for C, half a mark for D, and a full point for selecting both C and D. And Akindi will automatically divide the credit based on the number of correct responses, sorry. So 0.33 if I have 3 correct, 0.25 if I have 4 correct, etc. And then finally, we have an either or grading scheme, which will award full points for selecting either C or D. So this is most commonly used when you're reviewing your assessment after the fact. And if you're like, oh, this question is ambiguous, the correct answer is C, but I can understand why everyone selected D as well. And I want to award full points for either C or D. You could use this either or grading scheme. Great. Before I click continue and move past the answer key page, I'm just going to wait to see if we have any questions around entering your answer key into Akindi. Fantastic. I frequently have select all that apply questions. What grading scheme do you recommend? That's a great question. So if you have select all that apply questions, the most commonly used grading scheme for that is partial mark. So what that means is that the students will receive partial credit for each correct response. And if they select every correct response, then they'll receive full credit for that question. Oh, yes. And then here's a very similar question. What if a question has multiple options? You can just bubble in whatever the correct responses are. By default, we will use exact mark, which means the students would have to select the exact responses in order to get that question correct. But then you can customize that using this drop-down menu. Easy. Oh, and I also should note that this answer key can be edited at any point. So even after the test sheets have been uploaded and graded by Akindi, you can come back and edit the answer key. So if you find that there's an error on the answer key, you could correct that at any point. Or if you wanted to make customizations like offering either or, meaning like multiple correct responses, you could do that as well. Amazing. So I will now click continue. And just like that, my Akindi assessment is now fully set up. And Akindi is prompting me to print my bubble sheets. So when you click print bubble sheets, Akindi will generate a PDF that's customized how you set up in that first initial step. So because I chose to pre-fill my student information, I have a test sheet for each student in my roster with their name and student ID pre-populated onto the test sheet. By default, Akindi will include a few blank bubble sheets. And of course, if you didn't want your test sheets pre-filled, you would just have a blank test sheet like this, in which you will just print however many copies you need. The students will bubble in their, or write in their names and bubble in their student IDs. Regardless of whether or not the student names are pre-populated or not, I'm like trying to take the squeaky toy away from the dog, but she like now thinks that's the game, you know? Okay, so regardless of whether or not the student IDs are pre-populated or not, the version bubbles will be blank. So the students will self-indicate which version they're writing by bubbling in one of these version bubbles, and Akindi will automatically read that version and grade it against the correct answer key. If you are not running a multiple version of assessment, this field would just be blank and you can just ignore it. So these test sheets can be printed using any regular printer and any regular paper. The default settings of your printer will work fine. When they're printed, we just ask that you verify that these 4 little black squares, there's a little black square in each of the 4 corners, are properly printed on the test sheet. Akindi uses those corner squares to essentially map the location of all the bubbles. So it's really important that when test sheets are printed, that those corner squares are present. We do have some ways to repair test sheets that are like damaged, meaning like the corner squares are cut off or aren't present, but it's just easier off the bat if they're printed from the start. You will take the printed test sheets, pass them out to all of your students, and the students will complete them the same way that they would with a Scantron sheet. The main difference is that Akindi just looks at the darkness of the bubble when it's grading a test sheet. So students can use any writing utensil. They can use a pen of any color, a pencil of any kind, and Akindi will be able to identify that. The only thing we can't look at or we aren't able to pick up is highlighters. Typically, highlighters just don't make enough of a contrast that's be able to pick up by like a standard scanner. Great. Again, I'm just going to pause here to see if there are any questions around printing the test sheets to be able to hand out to the students. What is the QR code for? So the QR code, Akindi can like puts information in the QR code about which assessment this test sheet was printed from. So that we are able to digitally sort test sheets. So that QR code's not scannable by like a phone camera, the way that like one is out in the world. If that's scanned, they'll just receive an error that says this page does not exist. But our internal systems read that to be able to know which test sheet or which assessment this test sheet was printed from, and we're able to digitally sort the test sheets from there. Can a student write on the back of the test sheet? Yes. So you are welcome to, like, some of our templates have quite a bit of blank space. For example, the 50 question template has a lot of blank space here. The students are welcome to write there. That doesn't affect Akindi's grading at all. Or they're also welcome to use the back of the test sheet if you want to answer like a short answer question or something of that nature. As long as students aren't using like a Sharpie on the back of the test sheet, that won't impact Akindi at all. Great. There's a question about how to find Akindi in Blackboard. I'll circle back to that at the end so that we can get you the answer for that. Essentially, it will be listed under books and tools if you use Blackboard Ultra, but I can show you the specifics of that after. Great. So I'm now going to go back to course. Right. So I now have a dashboard created for the assessment that I just set up in Akindi. So from this dashboard, you are able to manage your entire assessment workflow. So the first square, you can edit your assessment, which takes you back to that first step of customizing the bubble sheet. Edit answer key will allow you to edit the answer key. That'll go back to that answer, like that digital bubble sheet page. You have the option to print more bubble sheets. After the assessment is completed and you've scanned your test sheets, you will upload them here. And then finally, when the results are ready to be viewed, they'll be visible here. So after the students have completed the assessment, you'll collect all of the completed test sheets and scan them using any regular scanner. So you will have like a standard like Xerox or multifunction scanner available to you at your school, whether it's in your faculty office or in your library or something of that nature. You could even use your like home scanner if you wanted to. You'll take the full stack of test sheets, put them on to the scanner. The scanner will walk you through a few different steps to enter likely your email address or your employee ID or something to be able to get those test sheets emailed to you, and press scan. The scanner will scan all of the test sheets into a single PDF, which will likely be emailed to you by the scanner. You can then download that PDF that was emailed to you and upload that PDF to Akindi. You can do that by clicking Upload Response Sheets, selecting the PDF file that contains all of the completed test sheets, and upload that to Akindi. A few things to note about scanning the test sheets. So one is that we recommend scanning the test sheets in batches of up to 100 students. So if you have a class of less than 100, you can scan them all in one batch. If you have a class of 200, for example, you can split the test sheets into roughly 2 separate batches and scan those together. With Akindi, you don't have to do any physical sorting of the test sheets. We do that automatically on our end. So you don't have to sort them so that all the version A's are together and all the version B's. Those can all be intermingled, and we will do the digital sorting for you. We'll also even rotate test sheets if they're scanned in upside down. So it's not like with Scantron, you have to make sure that they're all oriented the same way. Akindi will manage all of that for you. You can just scan them all into one PDF and upload them. This is a real-time look at Akindi scanning the test sheets. As you can see, it's about 1 to 2 seconds per test sheet. So, and while you're at this scanning step, you're welcome to leave and come back, and Akindi will continue to grade in the process. So it should take a minute or two for the test sheets to be completed by Akindi, and then we'll be able to view the results. Yeah, so you'll need your own Akindi account. So when you launch Akindi from Blackboard, that will automatically create your account. You don't have to have a separate login and password. And then all of your results will be visible to you in your Akindi account. So one thing you will notice once these are finished scanning is that Akindi has a number of safety nets in place to handle things that is unsure how to grade. So anytime Akindi is unsure of how a student meant to bubble in a response or a student ID or a version bubble, it's going to call that as an exception. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Right. We'll calculate exceptions. Awesome. So I uploaded 38 test sheets. All 38 of those test sheets were successfully graded and processed by Akindi, but there are 8 exceptions, 8 things that Akindi was unsure of, and we can get into the specifics of that. So I'll click Review and Fix, which is our way to handle exceptions. Great. So The exceptions or the review and fix tab is laid out in an email inbox style format. So essentially, on the left-hand side, you have the different type of exceptions. So student ID exceptions or anything that anytime Akindi wasn't able to connect a test sheet to a student in your roster, it'll be called as a student ID exception. A version code exception is anytime Akindi was unable to tell which version the student should be graded against. A scanning error is any time that Akindi was unable to actually grade a test sheet. That will be listed under that. And a student response exception is anytime a student or Akindi would like human verification on how a test question should be graded. So let's go through the different types. So in the first exception that we're resolving, you can see in these image previews, the student wrote in their name and wrote in their student ID, but didn't bubble in their student ID. So Akindi doesn't know who this test sheet belongs to. I can use this drop-down menu to search my student name or search for the student via student name. So I could search Sadie, for example, or Tanner if I want to search last name or middle name. But I can also search student ID as well to find the student and assign it to them. All resolved exceptions, everything that's handled will automatically be shown under show fixed. So you can go back and review your past exceptions at any point. I now have more student ID exceptions. So Eleanor Roosevelt, I'll type in Eleanor and pull up the last one. I could search by last name this time, search Margaret Knight and assign the test sheet to them. Now we have version code exceptions. So Akindi will show you a preview of what that student's grade would be if their test sheet was graded against each version. So I can see that Annie would get 20% if graded against version A, 80% if graded against version B, and then I can, obviously B is the starred because it's the highest one. So I can use this drop-down menu to assign a version to the student, and Akindi will automatically grade that test sheet against the appropriate answer key. And I'll do the same for Alan Turing. Amazing. Now we have student response exceptions. So this could be something, as you can see in this image preview, and I should note as well that all of these image previews are clickable so we can pull up the full raw scan of the student. So this student bubbled in 2 responses, but X'd out one of them. I can see that they're currently getting 0 points for this question. So because they X'd out C, I'm going to unselect C on these digital bubbles. And you can see that now they've answered the question correctly. So they will be earning 1 point for this question. Once I want to save this change, I will click confirm response, which will then officially save that student's changed response. This exception was called because Akindi can tell that a bubble was slightly filled, but isn't dark enough to be determined as fully filled. So we would like human verification on that. Again, you can see that they selected A, or it appears they selected A, so I can use the bubble sheets to change that student's response. I can see that they will now be earning 1 point for this question, and I can save that. Finally, we have a student that just did bubble in 2 responses. It doesn't look like they X'd out one of them. It doesn't look like they erased anyone. There isn't anything for me to change. They did just select B and C. So in that case, I can click confirm response and it will tell Akindi, yes, that student just did select B and C and there's no change to be made. And now that all my exceptions are resolved and I can ensure that all of the data in Akindi is like clean and accurate, I can now view the results. I'm going to just pause before jumping into the results to see if there are any questions about the exceptions or anything. Yes. Okay. So you're using D2L this semester, but okay. Yeah. I'm happy to show you how to use D2L after. We'll go through each of the different learning management systems as well. Fantastic. How does Akindi handle if a student erased a response? Okay, so typically what we say is that if you can tell that a student erased a response, so can we. So Akindi looks at a lot of different factors when it's determining whether or not a bubble is filled. One of that is comparing it again, the contrast against the other bubbles on the page. So if we can see that one bubble is really dark for that question and another one is lighter, and the difference is very dramatic, we are going to assume that the darker one is their correct response. And if there's anything that we aren't sure of, meaning like, we could tell that one is erased, but it's not erased enough for us to determine as erased, we will call it as a student response exception in which you can handle it, in which you can like digitally correct it. Amazing. So let's now jump into the results. So Akindi's results analysis are centered around two main questions. One is understanding how well the students performed, and the other one is understanding how well the test questions themselves performed. So on the overview page, the overview tab provides a high-level look at your assessment. I can see the average grade, the highest and lowest mark. Akindi will highlight the 3 easiest questions on the assessment, as well as the 3 most difficult questions. Continuing on, Akindi uses the discriminatory score or the point by serial to determine the best constructed questions. And I say that in air quotes because we don't have the question content. We're just looking at a statistical analysis here. So I can see that question 3, version B, is considered a well-constructed question, meaning that the high-performing students tended to answer this question correctly, while the lower-performing students answered this question incorrectly, meaning this question successfully distinguished between high-performing and low-performing students. When we compare that to questions that could be improved, we can see, for example, question 9, the highest performing students tended to answer, there isn't a strong correlation between how well the student performed on the test and whether they answered this question correctly. Moving on to the Graphs tab. The Graphs tab features all of the item analysis for your assessment. So the first is just the students' marks listed highest to lowest. I have a grade distribution. Akindi will highlight the average or the mean, the median. It's like right along that other green line, so it's kind of hard to see here, as well as the standard deviation. Once I select a version, I can see the answer breakdown for different questions. So Akindi will highlight the number of students that answered a question correctly versus incorrectly, and selecting any one of these bars will display the breakdown between the different responses. If you have select all that apply questions or questions that have partial marks, so I can select question 6, students that answered a question partially correct will be highlighted in light red. There we go. So fully incorrect is red, partially correct, meaning they got partial credit on this question, is light red, and then anything that answered green, they answered that question fully right. They got full credit on that question. And we also offer point by serial for each question. Finally, moving on to the Responses tab. The Responses tab is the full spreadsheet view of all the students and how they performed on the assessment. So I can see the student, their percentage grade, their raw mark, and a check in X if I'm looking at all of the versions. But if I select a specific version, I can see a breakdown of exactly what the student selected. Anything keyed in red means they answered that question incorrectly. And we have the same light red grading as well. So if a student answered a question partially correct, which we have on version B, for example, we will highlight partially correct responses in light red. The Responses tab is my personal page in all of Akindi because there's just so many there's a lot of functionality baked into this page. So for each student, we provide you with a scan and a report. So the scan is the raw file that we have, or like the raw scanned image that we have on file for that student. And the report is an individual student report that features their percentage grade, their raw mark, and a corrected version of their test sheet. So this individual student report can be used during office hours, for example. If a student comes and wants to review their assessment with you, you don't have to search through a stack of test sheets to find the specific student's test sheet. You can just pull this report up digitally and go through it with them. From this page, we can also edit the answer key. So the top row in this in the table is the answer key for each question, and double clicking on one of these cells will pull up an editor window. And then I can make a desired change. So if I say like, oh, this question didn't perform well, a lot of students selected D, for example, and after reviewing the assessment, I can understand why. I want to award full points for selecting either C or D. I can make that change and use our either or grading scheme. And as soon as I click OK, Akindi will automatically regrade the test. So I can now see that the C's and the D's are being marked as fully correct. Their students' marks have been updated along with the averages, and I can save that change. Great. Amazing. We can now talk about exporting the results from Akindi. So because Akindi is integrated directly into your learning management system, you have the option to send the grades directly to your LMS gradebook. So wherever you are, when you're looking at the results, there will be a send grades to. I'm in a Canvas linked course. Mine says Canvas, but you will say Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Moodle, whatever you're using. You have the option to select an existing column. So if you already have a grade column set up in your learning management system, you have the option to select that, or you can create a new column directly from within Akindi. Once I click send, Akindi will send all of these students' results to the LMS gradebook, and the students will be able to view their grades there. And those are done. We also have a number of other export options under this Actions drop-down menu. So you have the option to download a CSV file, which will essentially contain this responses tab in the CSV format. You can download a question breakdown CSV file, which will provide all of the item analysis of the number of students that selected each response, the point by serial for each question. All of that will be found here. You have the option to deliver a student report to each student. So this can either be sent to the students through email or through the learning management system, where they'll click the same Launch Akindi link that you do to access their student report. You have the option to customize this report, including being able to set an expiration date after which the report will close and no longer be visible to the students. And this report is the exact same one that is visible here. So essentially, you're providing the students access to this report with the corrected test sheet. And you can click send. And then finally, we have the option to download corrected test sheets, which will provide you with a PDF of each student's corrected test sheet that looks like this. And actually all of these options are available both at a class as a whole level, or if you wanted to deliver to just some specific students, you can select them using the responses tab and just download their results or just deliver the report to them, or just send their grades to the LMS. Great. I'm going to just pause to see if there are any questions before we get into the final leg of the journey of our. Great. Oh, Mona, I see that. Okay, so are you in, what faculty are you in? Oh, you're okay now? Okay. Because I know that, and actually, let me make note of this. Okay, I'm glad that it lets you in. I'm gonna just make note of this because I think that there might be more faculties using it. So I'll just make note to circle back with the admins at your school. Okay. Great. I'm glad that you were able to get in. Fantastic. Amazing. So at the very end, I'll go through the different learning management systems of how to access Akindi again. And before we do that, I just want to highlight two last features. One is that we have a collaboration feature. So if you have a TA or if you have a co-instructor in which you share different sections within a larger course, you have the option to add a collaborator to your Akindi course. So you can click the collaborate button, add in their names. I already have myself added as a collaborator here, but you can type in their email address, select their access level. So being able to view assessments but not make any changes. Edit will allow them to create new assessments, print test sheets, upload test sheets, edit answer keys, all of that. And admin means that they'll also have the ability to control collaborators. Once you click invite, they'll be notified that they've been added to your course, and they will then have access to the course and the assessments in Akindi. And then lastly, I want to highlight our support. So every step along the way, we want you to feel supported. So we have an extensive help center at help.akindi.com that features dozens of video tutorials, walkthrough guides, frequently asked questions that you're welcome to take advantage of. Alternatively, anywhere you are in Akindi, there's a little smiley face icon in the bottom right corner that allows you to reach out directly to the Akindi team. So we are based in Toronto. We work Eastern office hours. So you're welcome to reach out if you have a question, get stuck at any point, just like want a thumbs up that you're on the right track. We are there to support you at every step of the way. Right. Are you able to randomize the same questions of one versions of an assessment, but label them as different versions? Okay, so this isn't yet available, and this is something that is in the works at the moment. So we are like actively working on this right now, but unfortunately isn't available just yet. So I'm gonna make note. I'm just gonna make notes so that you get early access when it's available. Great. Amazing. So who will provide us with the login to Akindi website to upload paper? So you will already, okay, great, Elaine. So once you, okay, this is a perfect time to get into that. So essentially Akindi will automatically create your account once you've launched from your learning management system. So we can get that. So Mona, I can already see, I'm checking, I can see that you have already signed up. I see that your account is created for you. So let's go through each learning management system again about how to access Akindi. If you don't want to stay for that, you are welcome to jump off. We won't be covering anything new, just going through each learning management system of accessing Akindi again. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will send a follow-up email so that we can provide you with more resources. As you exit the webinar, you'll be presented with a survey. We would love for you to complete the survey. We're always looking to improve our training sessions and everything we do in Akindi. So we would love for you to complete that. Awesome. Thank you so much. If anyone wants to jump off now, thank you so much. I hope you have a great time in Akindi. We're here if you need us. That's the main thing. Okay, so now let's get back into the different learning management systems. So we have a request for both Blackboard and D2L. So we'll start from Blackboard. So once you are logged into your Blackboard Ultra account, you will select your desired course. And then under Books and Tools, Akindi should be listed as one of the available tools. It will say either Akindi or Launch Akindi. And you can click the little plus icon, which will just like add it as course content. This way you can access this link anytime you want. If you are wanting to deliver the report to students or deliver online assessments to students as well, you will want to make this visible to students. But then essentially, once that's been added to your course, you can click Akindi and be able to click Launch Assessments from there, Launch Akindi. launch assessments. Great. So that is Blackboard. Let me know if you have any questions about that. And then next is D2L. We'll also cover that. So again, same process. You'll log into Akindi. You will select your desired course. And then you will go to content, which I was just on. And you'll add a new content module, and you can label this Akindi or launch Akindi if you want. From that content module, select existing activities, and then there will be an external learning tools option. Akindi will be listed as an external learning tool. And again, this might be called Akindi, this might be called Launch Akindi. You likely will only have access to one. I have a whole bunch just because I have lots of different options of Akindis on my demo account, but you will only have one, so you won't have to worry about that. And then same thing, you'll select your, you'll select your Akindi or Launch Akindi link and be able to select it from there. And again, click Launch Akindi. Fantastic. And that is how to access Akindi from either D2L or Blackboard. And I will send a follow-up email with specific links that features like walkthrough guides, step-by-step instructions of how to access Akindi from each learning management system. Amazing. So let me know, does anyone have any other questions about anything you've seen here today? I'm happy to help. Okay, if you randomize multiple choice questions manually, can you incorporate short answers into the assessment? So at the moment, Akindi only handles the multiple choice side of the assessment. So how we recommend you handle this at the moment is you would have Akindi grade all of your multiple choice assessments, or all of your the multiple choice side of the assessment, and actually create two separate grade columns in your learning management system. So one would be the multiple choice portion, so say it's out of 30, and then you could have a short answer question that's out of 20, and then the students would then know the breakdown between multiple choice and short answer, and then their total would just be the sum of those two. So that's how we currently recommend handling multiple choice assessments, or assessments that have short answer on them. I'll make sure to include that in the follow-up email as well. But that is something that is in the works as well, which is exciting. Amazing, perfect, thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but anything can be related. Fantastic. Okay, so that wraps up the full end-to-end workflow of Akindi, from launching Akindi from your learning management system, creating your assessment, printing and scanning test sheets, and then finally getting the assessments or the results back to students. We are excited for you to try Akindi this semester. As I mentioned before, as you exit the webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a survey. We would love your feedback on today's session or on anything in Akindi. We really appreciate you taking the time. I'll send a follow-up email with the recording as well as some helpful links. And if at any point anything comes up, me and my team are here to help, or my team and I are here to help. Amazing. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great Thursday. Hope you have a great day. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye, everyone.